The Champions League is the best football tournament in the world, and with the latest campaign just recently coming to a close, it has now been 20 seasons since I began watching this great competition, and in honor of that, I'm gonna take a look back on those 2 decades and rank every winner of the UCL from worst to best. Just remember though, 1, I'm judging which team is the best and not necessarily which ones won the most trophies, context is always key, and 2, as far as weighing up their results and accomplishments, I'll put about 70% of importance on their Champions League run that season and about 30% on all the other tournaments combined. And with that being said, here's the ultimate countdown to the greatest Champions League side of the last 20 years. Let's roll on. Number 20, Liverpool 2005. So early warning, your favourite underdog teams will most likely, for obvious reasons, rank very low on this. And this is just one of the many examples. So to get the initial 30% out of the way, i.e. other competitions, not only did these guys win nothing outside the UCL, but they didn't even finish in the top 4 of the EPL. As for their Champions League run, they only even made it out of the group stages because of a dying minutes wonder strike from Steven Gerrard in a group that was far from tough. So yeah, while they certainly did make the best of what they had, they won the Champions League with Jamie Carragher for f***ing crying out loud. They were far from the best. 19, Chelsea 2012. Similar story here. In fact, these guys finished lower in their league than Poole did, but there are 2 main reasons why they still edge out the Reds. 1, they did win their domestic cup. 2, and far more importantly might I add, their UCL run was a lot stronger, finishing top of their group and eventually even going head to head with Pep's Barca. Spoilers, this is not the last time you'll hear the words Pep's Barca in this video, but that'll be later down the line. A lot later down the line. 18, AC Milan 2007. Well, this is probably lower than people expect. Look, if the 2007 version of Kaká played alongside most of these guys when they were about 4 years younger, I think this team could have been in the top 10 on this list. But as it transpired, the side outside of Kaká had an average age well over 30, weren't entirely convincing in a manageable group, and genuinely were pretty much a one-man show. A one-man show who, mustn't we forget, finished 36 points off the top of Serie A. Pretty run-of-the-mill that. 17, Chelsea 2021. Ever wondered why these guys always jump from manager to manager? Well, it may just have something to do with both of their UCL wins being with mediocre teams under interim managers. Like, don't get me wrong, they weren't a bad team as such. Bad is what they are now. And their UCL run was pretty impressive, finishing top of their group undefeated, as well as beating the Spanish champions, English champions, and Real Madrid in the knockout stages. So yeah, solid but unremarkable. 16, Porto 2004. Football is a game of small margins, so just like another famous example you'll see later on this list, this team is relatively forgotten due to a very small margin of time. 16 minutes to be more specific, cause that's how far Porto were from potentially winning a treble. Porto! Man, Mourinho in his prime was fucking insane. But in spite of their extra time defeat in the final of the domestic cup, when you consider that not only were they the Portuguese champions, they also won a Champions League final by a 3+ goal difference, the biggest for 10 years before and after that, these guys really deserve more credit than they get. 15, Real Madrid 2022. The worst Real side to win the UCL during my time as a fan. For the neutrals, may actually be the most likable Real side to win the Champions League during my time as a fan. So by 2021, long gone were the days of Zizou's resourcefulness, Ronaldo's relentlessness, and Gareth Bale's botheredness, and as a result, Mr. Ancelotti returned to the Bernabeu and constructed a team with a lot less star power than Real were used to, but a lot more efficient than Real were used to. And despite the early stumble against Sheriff FC, the watered down Galacticos managed to come back from that, as well as about 3 other super tough and dramatic positions, to ultimately bring home a historic 14th. Also, they won La Liga, no big deal. Number 14, Real Madrid 2018. The last side of the three-peats was also the worst side of the three-peats, and despite having the exact same team as the previous year, it was obvious from this season that an era was really coming to an end, as they were knocked out by Leganes in the Copa del Rey and finished 17 points behind Barcelona in the league. And while that admittedly accounts for only about 30% here, even their UCL run was very underwhelming. Like, fuck me, they finished behind Spurs. And in all honesty, the only reason they did get so far was cause post-January, Ronaldo just decided that he wasn't going to leave Madrid empty-handed. And even by the time he was subdued in the final, the burn in Bale's belly to backfire his bald boss's bold barb of benching him before the biggest bout blazingly blew up into a bracing brace of a brilliantly bodacious bicycle kick and a badly botched block by the Biberach-born baffled baller between the Blancos' opposing sticks. And before you knew it, the three-peat was complete. 13, Liverpool 2019. So fun fact, in the 18-19 season, despite having about 3 times the amount of games in the Premier League when compared to the Champions League, Liverpool still managed to lose 4 times the amount of games in the Champions League when compared to the Premier League. And yet, they won the Champions League and finished second in the Premier League. You with me on that? Good. And while the trophy is what ultimately counts, their record game to game does go a long way to explain why that, while they may be the greatest runners-up in Premier League history, they were quite a distance away from being the greatest winners in Champions League history. Either way though, very good team, corner taken quickly Origi, etc. 12, Real Madrid 2016. So this is where we get good, because don't get it twisted, while the first of the three-peat sides finishes only 2 places higher than the last, the gap level is pretty significant. So after a pretty slow start to the season, Zizou arrived in January and basically just instilled Casemiro as an anchor to BBC sorry, wrong image. Instilled Casemiro as an anchor to BBC, and from there, Real went on an excellent late season resurgence, missing La Liga by fingertips, but managing to get them all over La Undécima. Barcelona 2015. That's right, not only does this treble winning team not make the top 10, it's also the worst Barca team to ever win the Champions League. Emphasis on the word team, cause as good as they were, the success of the Catalans in 2015, much like most teenage relationships a decade earlier, was very MSN centric. And if you don't get that joke, fuck off to bed, you stupid child. Okay, that was needlessly aggressive. Sorry kids. They had the luxury of both the best version of Messi and Neymar on either side, and old Nibbly Norman connecting them together from the middle. But below that, you had Iniesta, certainly past his peak, Busquets, arguably past his peak, and Rakitic, who, as good as he is no prime Xavi, and consequently, their midfield and, by extension, their entire team were no way near as dominant as years gone by. On the positive side though, Barca still winning the treble should paint a picture of just how amazing MSN were, cause while I do believe their overall accomplishments have been widely overrated since, watch this for more info, for that one season when they were on their game, you'd be hard pressed to find a defensive line they couldn't depress. 10, Barcelona 2006. While they didn't have the insane attacking trio of MSN, Frank Rijkaard's Barcelona was certainly better as a team from top to bottom, winning La Liga by 12 points at a time where it was not a 2-horse race, mind you, and having an amazing Champions League run that saw them go on to beat some stellar teams like Mourinho's Chelsea, Ancelotti's Milan, and Wenger's Arsenal. Man, I miss Ronaldinho. What a baller. 9. Inter Milan 2010. So if you're one of those guys who is high on judging by numbers, Inter is probably the worst treble winning side to you. But as usual, you're missing the point. You see, being the better team is completely subjective. And for me, what makes a team better than another team is how well they're doing what they're supposed to be doing as a team and the end results that derive from this. And well, this was a Mourinho side. So what were they supposed to do? Keep it tight, work as an entire 11, make the most of what they had, and basically win at any cost. 8. Real Madrid 2017. The second of the three-peat sides and easily the best of the three-peat sides. So with the combination of Ronaldo's knee injury catching up to him and Bale's ankles giving up on him, Zizou finally struck his favoured 4-4-2 diamond, having his fullbacks provide most of the width going forward with the likes of Casemiro dropping back to cover. This obviously went to work wonders, with Real being undefeated in all competitions for half of that season, winning both the league and UCL with relative ease. Number 7. Manchester United 2008. Okay, genuinely, you can make a pretty strong case for any of the sides from here onwards being number 1. Proof, my choice for 7th place is a team which many consider to be the greatest United side ever. They're not, by the way, these guys are, but they were still fucking great. I mean, what can I say? Rooney, Tevez, Ronaldo, Scholes, and the criminally underrated duo of Michael Carrick and Owen Hargreaves made up the attacking half, while the towering pair of Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand, along with the likes of the legendary Edwin van der Sar, made the defensive half. And if this was solely about which team out of all 20 is likely to win a one-off game at any given day, this side would certainly rank higher. But as it stands, CR7 and his Carrington Co are sitting 7th, right below. Number 6, Bayern Munich 2020. Want further proof of how you can make a case for any of the top 7 being the best? My choice for 6th is a side that not only steamrolled both of the domestic trophies, but also scored a smidge short of 4 goals per game in the Champions League, with arguably the prime version of the greatest striker of his generation spearheading another team absolutely stacked with talent from top to bottom. This Bayern side was simply and quite literally unstoppable. So why do I still have them only at 6th? Well, mainly because of what's about to come, but also, 1, I'm sorry, but a Bundesliga treble does have to be taken with a grain of salt. It's not exactly the most competitive league in probably even Germany. And 2, even though they were amazing from the start, the delay and the last 3 games being played in empty stadiums could potentially be a factor. Like, come on, post-Fergie, United finished 2nd during that period. That rarely happens. Liverpool won the league during that period. That never happens. Number 5, Bayern Munich 2013. Unlike the case with Barca, there really isn't much in it between the two Bayern treble-winning sides. Hence, you must nitpick to separate them. And along with the empty stadium excuse, another reason why I choose the 2013 side over the 2020 side is because these guys were more of a team. And let's not forget, they had a pretty tough knockout phase, which they still breezed past, beating the Italian champions Juventus 4-0 on aggregate, as well as the Spanish champions and 100 points tallying Barcelona 7-0 on aggregate. The only team to give them any trouble in the knockouts? Arsenal. Wenger's Arsenal. Latter-day Wenger's Arsenal. Gervinho's Arsenal. Number 4, Barcelona 2011. Okay, so needless to say, both of Pep's Barca sides were GOAT level. But again, for me, the 08-09 side were better as a team. And while I'll discuss them later on, spoilers, here is why I believe this Barca team is considered to be better more often. A, the everlasting memory of them embarrassing Manchester United in the final is strong. This was a much more dominant victory than the one in Rome. And B, this team had a better version of Messi. Nonetheless though, here are a few interesting tidbits people tend to forget about this side. They were practically pushed all the way through on both domestic competitions, losing one of them. They were actually heavily aided by a stupid red card in the UCL last 16, at a time when Arsenal were leading, by the way, and they were similarly helped by another controversial sending off in the semi-final when the tie was very much in balance. As a matter of fact, the only knockout tie they were comfortable from the get-go in was Shakhtar Donetsk. Make of that what you will. However, when they were good, man, they were in class. This was probably Pep's best combination of having a proper unit but with a go-to main man. Everyone knew Messi was the guy at this point, and having a less ego-driven pair of Pedro and David Villa supporting him from both sides, with the midfield trio of Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets all in their prime on their day, they were simply magical. And it honestly speaks volumes about Pep that even this team is only the third greatest side he's ever produced, behind not only the first Barca side as previously stated, but also number 3, Manchester City 2023. Being the most recent side on the list might be why some may dispute them being so high up on this list, but man, trust me, that's a mistake. This was another Pep side that were both a world-class team but also with a clear main man. But the difference is, because Haaland is a lot less involved in games than Leo was in 2011, City 2023 was better as a team, as evident by them absolutely tearing through both the defending Spanish and German champions in the knockout phases. And although they were pushed by a valiant Arsenal side in the Premier League, they even made that pretty comfortable by the end. Personally though, I don't like them. Number 2, Barcelona 2009. Now this is a proper team. And before all you fangirls start whining, yes, Messi was still the best player, but he damn sure didn't stand out. No one did. This was a side that was made up of a group of youth graduates at its core, a proven world-class goal scorer who'd been there for a while, a dynamic frontman perfectly suited for a specific role, as well as a back line who may have played high up on the pitch but had barrels of depth scattered across the bench. Simply put, if Pep is the modern day master tactician, then this team is his ultimate masterpiece. And number 1, Real Madrid 2014. The perfect Champions League team. Man, I know this side gets overshadowed a little due to Zidane's three-peaters, but if you break it down season by season like we are doing here, Real's La Decima side were easily far above and beyond. You see, when Zizou set up a team with the BBC front 3 in 2016, he had pace and explosiveness. When he set up his patented diamond in 2017 and 18, he had possession and control. Don Carlo's first Real side had both in one and more, with all 3 frontmen at the absolute peak of their powers, Alonso, Modric and Di Maria basically offering you every damn thing you need in a midfield trio, the living legend Iker Casillas in nets, as well as the devil's dearest demonic dowdy defensive duo of Pepe and Ramos at the back. There was nothing this side couldn't do. I mean, not only did they absolutely smash through both of the cup competitions they were in, but they did it in scary fashion, scoring 20 goals in the UCL group stages, humiliating Schalke at the Veltins Arena, toying with Dortmund in the Bernabeu rain, and destroying Guardiola's Bayern under the Allianz lights. And as you can tell from a reading of their opponents, their knockout run wasn't supposed to be easy, but I'll be damned if they didn't make it look easy. Their only defeat in that UCL campaign, a 2-0 loss away at Dortmund in the second leg. But this is what brings me to why they didn't win the treble. You see, Real were first in the league for most of that season, stringing together an unbeaten run of 32 games at one point. But around late March/early April, that injury hit. And with Ronaldo out so suddenly, the team had a bit of a rough patch with 2 draws and 2 losses, which includes the one against Dortmund. And that little rough patch is what kept them from winning every single thing in sight and potentially being remembered as the greatest club side of all time. But even as it happened, they recovered from that patch, went on another tear through Europe, and brought La Decima home in iconic fashion. And that is that. Agree or disagree, beats indifference. Once again, don't forget to like, comment and share, and of course, subscribe. Till next time, you keep rolling.